The Neoliberal Myth of Small Government by Kevin Carson, February 3rd, 2005. Just stumbled across an amazing article. I've already argued in a subsection of Chapter 8 of Studies in Mutualist Political Economy that there is simply no way that neoliberal retrenchment can reduce total government spending and intervention to pre-New Deal levels. The reason is that even in periods characterized by a crisis under accumulation, the fundamental underlying tendency of state capitalism is still towards overaccumulation and underconsumption. Reaganite, Thatcherite neoliberalism, despite all its anti-big government rhetoric, must in practice maintain massive levels of government spending to buy up the corporate economy's excess product and utilize excess capacity. And although there have been major shifts in the direction of government intervention under neoliberalism, it's questionable whether the net level of government activity under Reaganism, Thatcherism is lower at all. The types of government intervention and spending have changed somewhat, but overall, corporate capitalism is heavily reliant on state intervention for its very survival. I have tended to suspect that the overall level of state involvement in the economy is actually higher under neoliberalism in many ways than it is under the corporate liberalism of the mid-20th century. So you can imagine how pleased I was to find my suspicions confirmed by the aforesaid amazing article, Nicholas Hilliard, The Myth of the Minimalist State, Free Market Ambiguities, Corner House Briefings, 05. The political rhetoric surrounding neoliberalism, Hilliard points out, makes heavy use of terms like laissez-faire and free market. The neoliberal revolution also ostensibly aims at a minimal state. Yet the practical outcome of these policies has not, in most cases, been diminished either the state's institutional power or its spending. Instead, it has redirected them elsewhere. It has also strengthened the power of many northern nations to intervene in the economic affairs of other countries, notably the indebted countries of the South, the emerging economies of the former Soviet Union, and the weaker industrialized partners of the trade blocs such as the European Union. For example, far from doing away with the state bureaucracy, free market policies have in fact reorganized it. While the privatization of state industries and assets has certainly cut down the direct involvement of the state in the production and distribution of many goods and services, the process has been accompanied by new state regulations, subsidies, and institutions aimed at introducing and entrenching a favorable environment for the newly privatized industries. The state has actually played a central role in implementing free market policies and moreover has continued intimate and ubiquitous involvement in regulating the minutiae of the market economy, a direct consequence of the hand-in-glove relationship that free market governments have fostered between adjusted state institutions and market interests. Overall levels of government spending have, in fact, continued to rise under neoliberalism. Deregulation can more accurately be called re-regulation, a shift of regulatory states' activities in a more corporate-friendly direction. Privatization of government activity, as Hilliard maintained above, leaves a larger share of functions under nominally private direction, but operating within a web of protections, advantages, and subsidies largely defined by the state. Spending cuts on social services have been more than offset by other forms of spending that subsidize the operating costs of corporate enterprise. Subsidies from multilateral development banks, especially which are necessary to render much overseas capital investment profitable, are on the rise. Neoliberal trade agreements include a legal framework, for example, so-called intellectual property rights, designed mainly to protect big business against the market. Many such agreements require the creation of international bodies, de facto supranational governments, to overrule the policies of signatory states. On the whole, the neoliberal version of the free market is like one of those old-fashioned chess playing machines that they use to have a county affair. It its apparently automatic operation on closer inspection was achieved by a little person on the inside, busily pulling the levers. In the case of neoliberal free market, it is the state that pulls the levers.